I'm trying to bring everybody together and prevent another civil war, because that's the direction we're going in if we keep up this nonsense. It blows my mind how much people think that they have the right answers. This is ultimately what's destroying everything. This is what's leading to the Civil War. I'm calling it right now. I think we can all agree that no one actually wants dead babies. All right, what's going on, everybody? It is Courtney Mirage here, back again from XtreMerps.com. Back for episode 2 of the Xtre Merps podcast. And Jesus Christ, what are we doing, people? We're just clapping at presidential candidates now. Donald Trump almost got shot in the head. Well, he did get shot in the head, but he almost got a headshot and just wiped completely out. But luckily, the bullet missed an inch from a fatal shot. So thank goodness for that. But what's going on here, people? Like, I'm glad that I'm doing this podcast because I'm trying to bring everybody together over here. And it seems like we are just being more driven apart. And I got some stats that I'll go over a bit later. But aren't we trying to avoid repeating history? Like, how many presidents got shot? I got an article up here that we can probably look at. Let's see. A look at past presidential assassination attempts in American history. Abraham Lincoln. Everybody knows that one. Clapped by John Wilkes Booth at the theater or something. James Garfield. No idea who this is, but he was assassinated. Dude got rinsed. William McKinley, 25th president. Shot after a speech in Buffalo, New York. He was shaking hands. He died 6 months after opening his second term. FDR? Harry S. Truman? John F. Kennedy? I mean, come on, people. Like, are we trying to repeat all this? Like, Gerald Ford? Okay, I don't know who that guy is. But Ronald Reagan. Okay, I know him. Wait, hold on. George Bush 43rd? I actually didn't know that George Bush almost got hit. Bush was attending a rally in Tbilisi in 2005 with Georgian President Mikhail Saakashvili when a hand grenade was thrown towards him. Both men were behind a bulletproof barrier when the grenade, wrapped in cloth, landed about 100 feet away. The grenade did not explode. No one was hurt. Vladimir Arutayunian was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. I actually didn't know that something happened to George Bush. Theodore Roosevelt. Okay, anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that I don't know why we're trying to repeat history here, folks. I'm trying to bring everybody together and prevent another civil war, because that's the direction we're going in if we keep up this nonsense. All right. So I have a couple tips that I think will help and actually force everyone to listen to each other, because that's ultimately what we got to do, is listen. All these straw man arguments, all of these, the other side is crazy, I'm not, all of these, I'm right, you're wrong, there's the other side, there's only one right side, no two people can be right. All of that is nonsense, and it's just leading to destruction. Like, seriously, think of it like this. Think of a couple living in a house, and they are just increasingly growing more resentment towards each other, and both of them have like their camps, right? So like some girl might have like her girlfriends or whatever, and then her girlfriends are talking about how bad her boyfriend is, and then the boyfriend's going to his boys and he's talking about all of his problems with his boys, and then they're like, oh yeah, she's trash anyways, you shouldn't be with her. And then they get back together, they're living in the house, and then eventually it builds until something nasty happens. And something nasty just happened in our country, and I'm just trying to like not make it get any worse than it already has. So I got a few tips. The first tip I got: stop vilifying the other side. Okay, so I got some stats here that I think are going to resonate with a lot of people. Let's see. So PewResearch.org says that political polarization in the American public has been increasingly getting more ideologically divided than in the past. So 1994, you can see the medians of Democrat and Republican distribution of Democrats and Republicans on a 10-item scale of political values. You can see they're a little more close together. In 2004, they are still kind of together, but a little separate, I guess. But then 2014, look what happens here. Look, the median of Democratic ideology versus the median of Republican ideology completely split. Here's like the middle ground. And then we're just continuing to split more and more. Divisive issues. Largest partisan gaps on political issues in the U.S. in 2023 by political ideology from Statista.com. Human activity's main cause of global warming. Republicans, 37% agree. Democrats, 88% agree. It's just textbook stuff with like all the Democratic and Republic points. And like, my thought is, I don't think that anyone falls under one bucket of just a bunch of ideologies. Gun laws should be stricter. 31% of Republicans agree. 84% of Democrats agree. So you can see like the divide here is real. Polarization. Now this one actually really got me. So if we go to carnegieendowment.org, this one really got me because this is a feeling thermometer of ratings by Democrats and Republicans. And you can see effective polarization is being driven primarily by dislike of the other party rather than positive feelings towards one's own. So you can see from 1964 to 2020. This blue line is how Democrats feel about each other. Red line is how Republicans feel about each other. They're kind of going down a little bit. It's kind of wavering. But look what happens here. This dotted blue line is how Democrats feel about Republicans. This dotted red line is how Republicans feel about Democrats. And look at how this is just nosediving. This is insane. So the conclusion is we hate each other. I don't know what's going on here. So I think the more that we continue to not listen to the other side and we're just vilifying the other side, the worse that it's going to be overall. So we need to stop doing that. The second tip I have is recognize your own biases. Everybody thinks that they're immune to bias. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I'm immune to bias a lot, and my wife has to continuously remind me that, hey, you're just seeing this from your perspective and you're not seeing the full picture. And not in like a patronizing way, but rather like, hey, be a little bit more objective, try and see things from another point of view. But we all have inherent biases that we're looking at. And I actually went to this website called decisionlab.com, and I'm going to pull this up here. This is actually a really good website. It shows a lot of biases, and I plucked out a few that I think have to do with what's been going on in political discourse as of late. So here's one. The belief perseverance bias. So belief perseverance, also known as the backfire effect or conceptual conservatism, describes how we continue to hold on to established beliefs even when faced with clear, contradictory evidence. We tend to prioritize our initial conclusions and resist changing our minds, even when it might be in our best interest to do so. Belief perseverance, definitely a big one. What's another one that we are prone to? Mere exposure effect. The mere exposure effect describes our tendency to develop preferences for things simply because we are familiar with them. For this reason, it is also known as the familiarity principle. This one, I think, pertains a lot more to social media and I guess like just regular media, like news, big news channels. Because I think once we keep watching the same stuff over and over, we're exposed to the same ideas over and over. It's kind of like being in an echo chamber. And YouTube algorithms, Instagram algorithms, they will put you in an echo chamber. Once you keep watching the same kinds of stuff, it'll keep feeding you the same stuff. And then you're going to be subject to the mere exposure effect bias. You're going to develop preferences for things simply because we're familiar with them. It's just going to keep coming up. What's another one? Naive realism. This one's kind of long. I might chop this up a bit. But this is the tendency to believe our perception of the world reflects it exactly as it is, unbiased and unfiltered. We don't think our emotions, past experiences, or cultural identity have any effect on the way we perceive the world, and thus believe others see it the same way we do. Naive realism is within the egocentric bias category, a group of biases that indicate we rely too heavily on our own point of view and fail to understand that it is a personal point of view. These biases make it difficult for us to understand other people's perspectives and can lead to arguments and polarization. This right here. Don't think that you're immune to this, because this can happen to anybody. And I think that the more heated that things get, and the more we get closer to a civil war, is the more these biases keep creeping up, keep putting blinders on our faces, and we can't actually have a conversation. That's what we have to do, is be able to listen to each other, disagree, and have political discourse, or just any kind of discourse. So that way we can just move forward and come to conclusions together instead of just trying to kill each other. I mean, literally. The last one is one that I found kind of interesting, and I think it kind of applies. It's called the survivorship bias. And this survivorship bias is a cognitive shortcut that occurs when a successful subgroup is mistaken as the entire group due to the invisibility of the failure subgroup. So this, I think, is taking the extreme opinions or the extreme views of the other side of a conversation and thinking that everybody on that side applies to that extreme group. So maybe some politician might say some outlandish stuff, and because they're on the other side of the aisle, you perceive everybody on the aisle as being just as outlandish. And yeah, that's another bias that I think is pretty relevant to what's going on in this day and age. So yeah, I think in general, we're all prone to biases. It can happen to any of us. And I think the more that they do happen is the more divided we actually become, because we're not actually looking at things for what they are. We're looking at things for either what we want to be. We're looking at things because they make us feel comfortable. We're not open to new views. And this is ultimately what's destroying everything. This is what's leading to the Civil War. I'm calling it right now. It's the inability to have a conversation. And we need to do better at that. Come on, peeps. Stop fucking around. So the third tip that I have is recognizing your own ego and realizing that you could actually be wrong. Realize the irony that you think another side is crazy and they also think that you're crazy. So both can't be right, right? Or maybe both are wrong. Maybe that's what it is. But that's the whole thing that I'm trying to get to, is that if both sides think the other is either wrong or incorrect, and they both think that they're right, both of them can't be true. So there's got to be either some middle ground or somebody seeing things in a flawed way. And you got to just have the conversation to see where it goes. It blows my mind how much people think that they have the right answers and the other side has nothing to contribute. And yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. And the last tip I have is to try starting on common ground, because if you're not operating under the same premises, then you can't really move somewhere, and you're actually having two separate conversations. So let me give you an example. There's a whole bunch of examples. Abortion. That's a big one. Yeah, I'm going there. So with abortion, I think we can all agree that no one actually wants dead babies, right? Common sense? I think that's fair to say. So if we can start there and we can agree, okay, nobody wants dead babies. All right, now we can move somewhere, right? But here's what ends up happening. This is a generalization, but what I see from the Democrat side is that they think that Republicans want to take away bodily freedom, right? And all Republicans are really trying to do at the end of the day is just look out for the safety of what they deem to be living beings. They don't want to kill babies. I don't think Democrats want to kill babies either, right? And Republicans think that Democrats are fine just killing babies all willy-nilly for sexual enjoyment. But really, Democrats are just thinking about the net negative quality of life of victims of abuse and a potential child, having their right to bodily autonomy, and weighing all of this with when a fetus is considered a life. And I know like that's where the sticking point comes, but let's not pretend that like Democrats are just trying to kill babies and Republicans want to take away bodily freedom. It has nothing to do with that. It's deeper than that. And I think we just keep getting caught in the weeds on like, oh, like they just want to take away my rights, or, oh, they just want to kill people all willy-nilly for their own pleasure. You know, like it's deeper than that. And like we need to have like the actual underlying conversation instead of all of the straw man arguments being thrown out. So yeah, if I had to wrap it up, I would say the 4 things that you can do to actually have a conversation are: stop vilifying the other side. Recognize your own biases. Accept that you have an ego and that might be playing a part in things. And to try and start on common ground with a conversation. I think that if we can start doing those things, we can avoid the next civil war. Because if we don't, and we're not listening to each other, I don't know. Biden might get clapped next. I don't know. But I mean, to be fair though, if he did get hit the way Trump got hit, I don't think he's getting up. Oh man, look, I'm not wishing any harm on Biden. I'm just saying that, you know, retirement age is 67, you know. that's all I'm saying. Yes, everybody, I know that Trump is also older than 67. I get that. I was going for a meme here. Let me have my fun. Anyway, so that's all I wanted to share about that. And time to shill for Xtre Merps again. So let me just bring this up really quick. All right, so we are back. Okay, so nobody asked for this. I know that. But the reason I actually made this website is more than just making a cute little rock, paper, scissors game. Okay? I made this website because I'm trying to find another way for people to actually like, you know, connect, and social media just ain't doing it for a lot of people these days. Haven't you found yourself just sitting around with your friends? You guys are all in a circle, but nobody's talking to each other. And then you're just sitting back. Everybody's just scrolling on IG, scrolling on Twitter, scrolling on LinkedIn. Is that considered social media? Anyway. Yeah, so nobody's talking to each other. You're all sitting in a circle. It's just complete silence and no one's actually interacting. Instead, boom, Xtre Merps. Y'all can create a room. You can play some rock, paper, scissors together. Have a little ha-ha, hee-hee, laugh it off, and then you can play again. Have you found yourself just in the bathroom taking the biggest shit of your life and you have no other options but to just scroll social media again or just read that next Reddit post that's going to get you depressed? Boom, Xtre Merps. Hop in, do the daily challenge, or you can send a room code to one of your friends and then you can play and you can wipe your ass when you're finished beating them at rock, paper, scissors. Yeah, so I'm going to close off with this. This one's going to be super random, but it's been something that's on my mind. It's got nothing to do with what we talked about earlier. I'm a huge Dungeons and Dragons guy, and I've been playing with some friends for years, and I've had a Lightfoot Halfling Rogue, which is like one of the standard combos. I've had wizards, I've had fighters, all these different classes, right? But one that really caught my attention was the Ranger. And everybody says that the Ranger is the worst class in Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm here to prove to you that that is not true. All right? First off, all right, you're going to go down this journey with me. All right? So, what is the worst class in Dungeons and Dragons? What is the worst class in D&D 5e? Let's find out. What do they say? Dungeon Master. You will lose 99% of all combat encounters. Oh, that's pretty good. Mythcreants. I've never been to this website, but let's see what they have to say. Classes ranked from worst to best. Artificer. Yikes. I have a good friend that plays an Artificer, and he would not like to see that. Although it pains me to give the game's newest class this dubious distinction, there wasn't much competition in my mind. The Artificer is Wizards of the Coast's third attempt at a half-caster, and it fails even more spectacularly than the Ranger did. Oh, I think I see where this is going. Oh, no. No. Ranger is 12 out of 13. Saved from the bottom slot only by the existence of Artificer, we have the Ranger. What puts the Ranger so low on this list isn't strictly its mechanical weaknesses. It is possible to build a competent martial ranger. The problem is everything it does is done better by another class. Fighters make better archers, and any number of martial options make superior melee combatants. Having a pet should have been the Ranger's core feature. All right, so... Okay, so a lot of people have said that a Beast Companion should have been a core feature for Ranger. That's a subclass, by the way, for those who don't know, is having a Beast Companion. But then if you choose a subclass, then you are pretty much opted out of all other subclass options. So a lot of people have said that. And I'll be honest, I do agree that the Ranger was kind of ass up until Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Because when they introduced Nature's Veil, which is a new Ranger mechanic, or I shouldn't say new, a Ranger mechanic that was added so that way they can go invisible. They can go invisible with a bonus action. That changes the game. That changes the freaking game. Because now you have automatic advantage. You can sharpshooter, and you can do that for free. And on top of that, it doesn't count as magical advantage. So if you get hit, you actually do not lose your invisibility, and you get to hold that invisibility until the start of your next turn. Incredible. Mind-blowing. I don't know why people are overlooking that. People want to see what they want to see. Please see biases from before earlier on in this video. So I stand by it. Rangers are not ass anymore. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything changed the game for Rangers. I would put Rangers in the top. Rangers are top 3. There, I said it. Top 3. Fight me on it. I dare you. Yeah, so honestly, this episode was supposed to come a lot later, but I felt a lot going on with the whole Trump shooting, the assassination attempt, and yeah, I'm glad he's okay. I don't think that that's the route that we should be going. I think we need to come together and we need to be able to listen to each other, and vilifying the other side is not going to be the answer. Luckily, the guy who attempted the assassination, I think they got him, so he's no longer around, unfortunately. But yeah, I think investigations are still going on, and they actually don't know a motive as to why he did it. Apparently he was Republican, so that kind of isn't lining up with a lot of people's stories, so that's pretty interesting there. But yeah, I also wanted to share the motive behind Xtre Merps, formerly known as Extreme RPS. I'll let you put that one together. And why I made it, because, I have a good feeling about it. Just saying, I got a good feeling. So yeah, if you got value out of this, feel free to smash that like button. Just, go in on that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Yeah, I'm really hoping to bring people together because Lord knows that history has a way of repeating itself, and we are barbaric animals at the end of the day. We need to be cognizant and conscious of the stuff we're doing.